You know what? I'm not surprised. I told you they were preparing us for a Susie elimination before the finale. I thought it was going to be because of Lexi, but with their storyline being resolved in the previous makeover episode, I guess it makes sense why she was not up for elimination this week. But yeah, Drag Race does not like drag that strays away from the male gaze version of quote-unquote female impersonation, and y'all know how much I hate that term, so this bullshit ending for Susie was inevitable. However, that's not what we're here to talk about. Today, we're going to say who should win Season 17 based on the season that we have watched. Obviously, the ending was not ideal, since this should have been the top 3 going into the finale, but oh well, Drag Race couldn't choose a good story if it fracked them in the face. So if you're new here, let me explain how we're doing this. We're going to look at 3 different categories to determine who should win. The queen that wins the most categories should win the season, but it doesn't mean that she will win it, because it's Drag Race. There's also an asterisk category that we have to look at for the post-logo era of Drag Race, which is how the queens were affected by the twist of the season. I've done a video explaining how that works, so watch that if you're confused what it means. The 3 categories that we're going to be comparing these queens in are, first, best track record, then most dominant competitor, and lastly, best storyline. I'm gonna tell you right away that Jules and Sam are not winning this season. Each has been up for elimination twice, and Jules hits a double whammy here as a queen that has not been a factor in the competition for the first portion of the season. I know someone is gonna say something like,
but Simone.
Like, no girl, Simone's first bottom 2 placement came in a filler episode where they saved Candy Muse for no reason. The results of that episode did not matter. So quite honestly, this season's possible winners are Onya and Lexi, just like I predicted. Who would have thought? Let's get right into the first category. You would think it was simple, you know, adding points to Queen's trajectory in the competition based on their placements in the season, but this last 14th episode of Season 17 showed me that that's not really the case. There's a rant incoming, so you can skip ahead if you just want to hear the answer to the category, but someone in this episode asked something like, do track records matter when determining the winner of the season? And Jules answered saying, not really, because the person with the most wins does not always win the season. Now, Jules is right, but also very wrong. Yes, the person with the most wins does not always win the season. However, what have I been talking about for the past 7 years? Well, 5 years, I took like a 2-year break. Never mind. Track record is not just wins and bottom 2 placements. It's that, and then everything in between. This is what happens when other creators, and I'm using that term very loosely, steal my system, but don't actually take the time to understand it, or they will tweak it just a little bit, without any explanation of course, so as to not seem like they actually stole the idea. And then they water it down to just wins and bottom 2 placements, which the audience with a screen time of 16 hours just eat up and make popular. I know that the queens know about these scoring systems, and I personally know many that have reached out to me with both positive and negative feedback, which is always welcome, but it's so annoying that the most basic of content is always what gets echoed and becomes popular. So no, track record is not just about wins and losses. With that in mind, the queen with the best track record this season is Onya Nurve. She has a 5-point lead compared to Sam Starr, the queen with the second best track record, which is honestly quite a lead. Next, who was the most dominant queen of the season? This category originally asked who was the top of the competition the most times, which often confused people. For what reason? I don't know, because there's a difference between being top of the competition and in the top 3 of an episode. But this one time, I will dumb it down. Essentially, queens each episode earn points. At any given time, there will be a queen, or a couple of queens, that have earned the most amount of points up to that episode. The queen that spent the most amount of time in the season leading the pack is the most dominant queen of the season. The first category just asks, by the end, who was the best? But this one awards consistency and an overall good performance. 4 different queens have been at the top of the competition this season. One was there only once, one twice, and 2 of them were at the top 7 times. You will be surprised to find out that this season's top 4 are not these 4 queens. Sam Starr was at the top of the competition in the 3rd episode. However, she does share this spot with two other queens, so she is the lowest on the totem pole here. The queen that had the highest score in 2 episodes is Lexi Love, being the top competitor for episodes 1/2 and 3. The next 2 queens, while yes, have been at the top 7 different times, one of them shared her top placement 3 times, while the other only once. Therefore, the queen in the second place here is Susie Toot, who was at the top of the competition in episodes 1/2 with Lexi, 3 with Lexi and Sam, 4 with the queen in the first place, and then solo in episodes 5, 6, 9, and 10. Obviously, you all know it's coming. The queen who consistently did the best was Onya Nurve, being the top competitor after episodes 4 with Susie, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Thus, Onya wins this category as well. As she already has best out of 3, you would assume that we can conclude the video now and just say that Onya should win the season. However, the storyline category is an important one, often carrying more weight than the previous 2 categories. And if paired with the asterisk category, it can make the competition feel null and void. So, who had the best storyline? Well, it's kind of hard to say, because the stories of this season were quite poorly produced. The biggest story of the season was how Susie Toot was a smartass and an evil person, aka down to earth, intelligent, and fully formed in her aesthetic. The other queen storylines revolved around her. Lexi's entire storyline this season was about how she was irked by Susie, with her realizing in episode 13 that this is because she feels like Susie got to live the life that she never could have, and so she was just envious of her. Lexi was also extremely shady and emotional throughout the entire season, actually straight up sabotaging Sam in this episode.
I put the cunt in country.
Oh my God, write that down, Samantha. Write it down now.
I think that Sam is just running this old country theme into the ground, honey. But this is the game. Sister Fish, I love you so much, but I'm not going to tell you that I don't think this is the best idea.
Something she's accused Susie of doing, which she never did this season. Therefore, of course, the producers made Lexi the hero of the season and Susie the villain. A normal, logical way of thinking. So, Lexi's storyline gets resolved in episode 13, and then in episode 14, she gets pretty much the same critiques from the judges that she's been getting this entire season. So, she's going into the finale with unresolved issues. Same goes with Sam. She started out literally as the Trinity the Tuck Southern pageant queen archetype. She grew out of it as the season went on, and then reverted back to it before the finale. Insanity! It's a downfall storyline, which is technically a really good storyline, but it's not a winning storyline. But then again, Nymphia was a supporting character in season 16, Willowpill did not even exist on season 14, so you never know. Onya was kind of a villain in the beginning of the season, with her quote-unquote sabotaging Jules and Lexi, her also consistently being on Susie's side the entire season, and then ending her story before the finale with the comments that she has not really loosened up yet completely. So again, no resolution. Jules didn't really have a storyline. Her portrayal was pretty one note from the beginning of the season until the end, even though she was very present in every single episode. So she sparkles? Is that a storyline? I guess I could give this category to Lexi, because in some symbolic way, she did end up beating the villain of the season by reaching the finale when Susie did not. But am I being overly generous here? So we have 2 for Onya, 1 for Lexi, and then the asterisk category. What were the twists this season? We had the unnecessary levers that saved queens that had very little impact on the competition, making 2 episodes in the season complete fillers. None of the top 4 were affected by that twist, so they all win that one. However, the split premiere and the ranking in those 2 episodes is also a twist. Out of the top 4, Jules and Lexi were the 2 queens that were in the top 2 for their respective groups. And then on top of that, Lexi won her top 2 lip sync, so she gets to win this category. Therefore, essentially, we have a tie between Onya and Lexi. Logic says Onya should win, Drag Race says Lexi should win. Onya's been criminally underrated on social media, and we know that Drag Race looks at the amount of followers queens have to determine what they want to do, so don't be surprised if Lexi wins this season. However, the final outcome does depend on the finale format. maybe they do a lip sync for the crown, and we have a top 2 of Sam and Jules. Perish the thought, though. But who do you guys think should win the season? Sound off in the comments, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching.